2026. Every block, every ballot, every voice. This ain't left or right. This is right now. OVC. Teachers shaping minds. Vets who stood strong. Gig workers hustling just to get along. Parents, elders, first-time voters in line. Same clock ticking, same moment in time. No dark money whispers. No backroom deals. Daylight choices and the truth that's real. Labels don't own us. We bigger than sides. Accountability lives where democracy thrives.
Our vote counts. Yeah, remember the name. Every voice heard. We don't play no games. From the city to the plains, let freedom resound. Different stories, same future. United we found. Our vote counts. Stand tall, no doubt. Integrity first. Let the people speak loud. From the city to the plains, let freedom resound. Different stories, same future. United
Clear
we
facts, no
found.
spin. Education unlocked. Breaking down the process from the door to the box. Who earns the trust? Who shows up to serve? Asking the questions. Leaders got nerves. Neighborhoods talking. Town halls packed. Local voices first. Yeah, we built it like that. Different faiths fused, so walking as one. Democracy stronger when we all get it done. Yeah.
Our vote counts, yeah, remember the name. Every voice heard. We don't play no games. From coast to coast, let the movement expand. Power in the people, future in our hands. Our vote counts, stands tall, no doubt. When we show up informed, that's what it's all about. Our vote counts, stand tall, no doubt. When we show up informed, that's what it's all about.
This ain't no cycle. Nah, this is a standard. Long-term vision. Principles planned from schools to the boards up to the higher seats. We connect the dots from the block to the streets. Peaceful power, respect and demand. Integrity measured by actions, not plans. OVC active, participation mounts. When the people stand ready, turnout counts. Yeah.
Our vote counts, yeah, remember the name. Every voice heard. We don't play no games. From the city to the plains, let freedom resound. Different stories, same future. United we found. Our vote counts, stand tall, no doubt. Integrity first. Let the people speak loud. From the city to the plains, let freedom resound. Different stories, same future. United we found.
Every voice,
Every voice,
every vote,
every vote.
integrity, inclusion, accountability. OVC,
OVC.
yeah. 2026. My vote counts. And so does yours.
Hey y'all, I feel like I should clap. Yay for the theme song, yay! Once again, thank you to Mr. Fenney and the OVC team for putting that together. But mostly Mr. Fenney. Mr. Fenney's very clever guy. Very clever. He does the singing and the dancing and the dancing and the singing and the... If you see him around here, follow him. Very clever guy. This is OVC. Today we are featuring Neal Intchauspe, candidate for Arkansas State House in District 24. We're going to bring him up. Chief Chops. Ryan, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Ryan, I sent you a guest request. All you got to do is accept it. You joined? I don't see you. Where's Ryan? Somebody. Technical difficulties. It's saying you accepted. I don't see you. You're not up here. I'm going to invite you again. Technical difficulties. Hey, you guys, guess what? Arkansas has already started voting. They have early voting. Illinois, North Carolina, Arkansas, Texas. Early voting already. Oh, hey, butterfly in the sky. Oh, I sent it to you. Are you on a cell phone, Chief Chops? Got to be on a cell phone. I'm sorry, a smartphone. Okay, I sent you the guest request. Oh, you know what? You don't have live access on this account, sir. Yeah, you don't have live access on your account. Technical difficulties. Oh, he's on the wrong account. You're on the wrong account. You have another account you can switch to, the other Chief Chops. You got to chill out. Just chill out. Just chill. We'll get it together. Just chill, bruh. Just chill. If you have your other account that you have live access on, you should get on there and come back. We'll wait for you, Ryan. Technical difficulties. By the way, everyone in the land, Ramadan Mubarak. Ramadan started last night. Excuse me. For the first time in years, and I do mean years, we have about 12 hours of fasting. Yeah, this is the shortest it's been in a while. I only see one account in here. Technical difficulties. So yeah, Ramadan started all over the world. There's also, today was Ash Wednesday. Also the Chinese New Year. Yes, I can see you. I can see you, Ryan. Chinese New Year. Also, there was something else. Mardi Gras was yesterday, right? Mardi Gras was yesterday. Saw lots of parades up and down the TikTok live. Parades going into the night. Y'all have parades at night? You have to be on a smartphone. You can't be on a laptop. Technical difficulties. I can't remember the last time I went to a parade because I don't get up that early. But if there are parades at nighttime, then that's for me. A nighttime parade is for me. That's something I can do. But if you tell me I got to get up at 7 a.m. to go to a parade, you better have donuts and coffee, and you're going to have to throw something more than candy at me. Maybe $1 million. Just write a check. Okay, I sent you the invite. I'm going to send it again. Darn it. Oh, there you are. That is not you.
Yeah. What do?
I hear my voice. I hear
There, here you go.
What? I don't, Bobby.
Confirm.
I hear my loud voice. Am I that loud? Should I be louder? Also, something else happened yesterday or today. I can't remember. Something about the Department of Education and DEI. They were ordered by a court, mandated by a court to drop their directives, their anti-DEI directives. Win for education. It's a win for education. Let's see what else we got here. Some good news. Let's talk about some good news. The Olympics. Did you guys see the Olympic, the USA Olympic? I don't know I don't know what game she does. I don't know what event she does, but she won the gold, and one of her sons is deaf, but speaks ASL, and her other son has Down syndrome. But her son was on the sidelines. The one who speaks ASL was on the sidelines, and the husband had the baby, and he was signing. He was like, "Mommy won." He was like, "Mommy won," and the boy was like, it was so cute. It was so cute. Oh my gosh, it was the most adorable thing I've ever seen. That's what the Olympics are about for me, really, because I haven't really been into the games this year, the Winter Games. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's what it's about. That is what it's about. It's about representing for the people who love you and support you. Even if you don't get on that podium, even if you don't get on the podium, honey, you made it all the way to the Olympics, to the final round. You know how hard that is? I wouldn't even be able to make it onto the tryouts for the prelims to get on the bus. You know what I'm saying? Although if I were in the Olympics, I probably could do something like public speaking, if there was an Olympics for public speaking, or gardening, planting. I'm good with plants. Let's see who could keep a plant alive for a couple months. I don't know. Hello?
Hello, it's still not allowing us to do video though.
Well,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You can't do video on this one?
No, it's not allowing me to. It's just the sound, audio.
Okay. Oh, well, that's fine. If that's all you can do, then that's all you can do.
Okay, well, here he is.
Here I am on my wife's account, since apparently I'm not meant for social media.
Listen, a lot of us are new to Earth, and the social media thing is rapidly changing. And when you're just a baby, there's nothing, you don't know what to do. So you just go with the flow. Whatever you can give us, we will accept. We here at OVC are accommodating. We put the A in DEIA. That was a joke.
I get it.
Okay. Just relax, Mr. Intchauspe. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Just chill, just relax. It's all good. We're all good here. Everybody's all good. I'm going to share this out to a few more people. To the people in the audience, if you could please like the live. I am such a goofball. Like the live. Also share it out. There are a couple of ways to share. You can hit the repost. You can add it to your story. You can also spam it to your followers. Press down on the prompt where you see that picture, that graphic that says Town Hall. Press down on it. And a list of your followers should come up. And you just go all the way down the line and hit send. All the way down. And it'll go out to everybody. Do people know that you're here, Ryan?
Well, I'm not certain if everybody knows I'm here. I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, I installed TikTok on my phone 2 hours ago. I don't do social media. I haven't had a social media account of any kind for years. I'm not a big social media fan. I don't care for it personally. So I understand that it is the way of the world today, but I find that personally, social media allows people to act the way they wouldn't act if they were in real life. And I don't really care for that all that much.
Well, if it's any comfort, this is me all the time. So whoever you
Well,
get
this is me all the time. That's why I don't use social media.
this is who we are, Ryan. We keep it
Yes.
real. We keep it real. Okay, well, so we'll talk about all that. How your campaign. Okay, well, I guess we can talk about it now. How's your campaign going if you don't use social media?
Well, I started a Facebook account
Okay.
in January. I've been working on that. I don't do a lot of it myself. My wife is the one that understands social media,
Yeah.
so she's the one that posts or whatever. What she does is I guess she calls it or we don't call it anything, but she pounces on me. She comes up to me and just asks me a question without any preparation and videotapes me, and then she posts it to my campaign page. But really, the only thing I use Facebook for or any of that stuff is Facebook Marketplace. It took the place of Craigslist. Personally,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So I'm not social media savvy, as it were. I don't have followers. I don't know how many I have, or any of that stuff. My campaign is going well though, because
Okay.
everybody knows who I am. When I go out in town, people recognize me and people are saying stuff and they're asking me questions. And of course I show up in public events a lot. And so I'm out in the public. And so I answer questions to people just directly.
So have you done a town hall yet?
Yeah, I've done a couple of candidate forums
Okay.
with some town hall in them. One candidate forum allowed people to answer or ask questions from the audience. Another, they had a bunch of prepared questions. But I've done those types of things, and we use those videos to post on the Facebook page
Okay.
because we're not really good content creators or any of that stuff. Like I said, the fact is,
You know what though? Your wife handled this very well. She gave us a lot of information about you, so I was able to craft better questions for you.
oh, well, that's perfect.
I do have prepared questions, but they're not, generic at all, hopefully. But your wife was very helpful. So when you get through with all of this, take her to get a Big Mac or something because she was
Yeah.
very helpful. She was very
She has
helpful.
alpha gal, unfortunately, so she can't eat anything but birds and fish.
Oh, well, okay. Take her to get some cod. You know what? Lent is upon us.
That
I'm
is
not a
true.
Lent participant, but apparently there are fish fries every Friday.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yes. Take her to get some fried fish.
Yeah, that's what I should do.
But hey, everyone, welcome to Our Vote Counts, or OVC as we like to call it. I'm your moderator, Ayana. Tonight we're speaking with Neal Intchauspe. He was a candidate for Arkansas State House District 24. We'll be talking about his background, his vision for the state, and of course, taking your questions live. If you have any questions for him, you may leave them in the chat, or you can hit that multi-guest and come up and ask him. We're going to be talking all about his district, state politics. I mentioned to the people earlier, Ryan, that early voting has started in your state. Have you voted already?
Yes, I have.
All right. Okay. Our Vote Counts is a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds united by a shared commitment to empowering voters and promoting candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, all the good things through voter education, candidate outreach, and community engagement. We support leaders who are ready to serve the people, not special interests. Our Vote Counts is more than a name. It's a promise, a movement, and a rallying cry for democracy. Together, we are shaping the future one informed vote at a time. Ryan's district, this District 24, the current incumbent is Brad Hall. Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the Arkansas State Representative is responsible for representing the constituents of parts of Crawford and Washington counties in the state legislature. It looks like the population is about 28,718 people. Ryan, you yourself grew up in Greensburg, Kansas, a town of about 1,500 people. You were raised by a single mom. You moved a lot. You earned your high school diploma from Salina High School South. You got your associate's degree and then a bachelor's degree and a graduate degree. Just keep on getting them degrees, Ryan. You served in the U.S. Navy from 1995 to 2020. You were a combat search and rescue swimmer. Ooh, you led 250 sailors and you managed a lot of money. Now you are running for this seat, Ryan. And this is your second time running for the seat, right?
Yes.
This is your second? Okay. Well, hopefully you get it this time. Got my fingers crossed for you. Ryan, for people who are meeting you for the first time, please tell us more about yourself and why you decided to do this again.
Well, you summarized it pretty well. I was born in Greensburg, Kansas. I wasn't raised there.
Okay.
I wasn't raised anywhere. My family moved constantly in my childhood. Both of my parents were drug addicts. Neither of them had an education.
Ryan, just
Yes.
for TikTok purposes, the DRUGS word, they hate to hear it. They hate it. They hate to hear it. So if you could say substance abusers or users, whatever
Sure.
the case, I would
Or
appreciate it.
junkies. Does junkie work? No? Okay.
Well, no, they might see that as bullying, and they don't like
Okay.
bullying. So just
Well, my parents were both addicted to. They had addiction, and they had addiction problems, big time. My dad was an extremely violent human being. He never made it past the 8th grade. He was kicked out of school for violence, not for anything else. I was born shortly after he turned 16. My mom was 18 when I was born. She turned 19 5 minutes after I was born. We moved constantly because we couldn't stay in a place longer than a urinalysis would end a job. And my dad was he was a miner where he would work in gold and molybdenum mines. And then, so we would live in mining camps and we lived in places that didn't have towns. And, when the 1980s happened and we deregulated how corporations make money, I stood in food lines and stuff in Leadville, Colorado, because, I needed my big block of government cheese and my powdered milk and all that kind of stuff to survive. We had periods of homelessness. Finally, at the age of 12, my mom and dad, my dad abandoned us and my mom went to rehab and she got clean, but then spent the rest of her time spending, 90 meetings in 90 days and 180 meetings in 90 days and doing Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous to clean herself up and then working jobs with 3 kids. I was the oldest and I was expected to help. My paper route money wasn't just my money anymore. And I was expected to pay for my own school clothes and for my own school books and all that kind of stuff from about the age of 12. I've been self-sufficient that time. And I started working for other people around about the age of 13, working at A&W places, paper routes, working on farms, laying irrigation pipe, that kind of stuff. I worked my entire life, all through high school. I had a full-time job. I was working almost 70 hours a week my senior year in high school, had multiple jobs because I had mentors that I had met through Narcotics Anonymous and men that had improved their lives and gotten ahead, and they would employ me. And at one point they even were willing to co-sign a mortgage for me so that I could buy my first rental property when I was 18. I've been a real estate speculator almost my entire life while I was in the Navy. And everywhere I got stationed, I would buy houses. I joined the Navy at 19 years old, and that was the first time I really got stability in my life. And I just improved myself. I knew that I was going to have to work hard my whole life. And I promised myself that I would work hard while my body was young. And then when my body got old, I would relax and rest and retire early. That was my goal. So I followed my plan.
I had a lifetime dream of living on a homestead where I lived with pigs and chickens and goats and was completely self-sufficient and wouldn't require money. Growing up in poverty, money is always something you think about. It's always something that is always in your mind. The lack of money, the stress of money, and I wanted to live without money. And so I wanted to become a homesteader. That was my dream since I was 7 years old, and that's what I'm doing now. I worked to get.
What does that entail? A homesteader. What does that mean? You're living entirely off the land, or?
That's the goal. Yes, yeah, so that I can live entirely off the land of my homestead. If that means so that all of my needs are met by my property.
Okay.
All my food needs, all of my shelter needs. I try to generate my own electricity. I try to do all of that kind of stuff. So that I can live a debt-free life without money. That was my version of the American dream. I understand it's not for everybody. Everybody has their own idea of what success looks like to them. And for me, success did not mean nice cars and flashy houses and stuff like that. Success meant stability and sustainability and peace and freedom. Because that's the way I lived when I was a child. We lived in hippie communes and Indian reservations and stuff like that. And even though we were dirt poor, we were free. We didn't have the government coming in on us all the time. We didn't feel like we were bound in our pursuit of happiness to one path. We felt like that we could do anything and live any way we wanted. And after experiencing that level of freedom, I joined the Navy and gave it up and did 25 years in the military, or 24 years and 3 months in the military. And when I got out of the military, I expected to go back to that level of freedom, and it wasn't there. It didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And government overreach at every corner, and I just couldn't take it. I felt like I had done my part to support and defend the Constitution in the military. But when I got out, I didn't see a whole lot of freedom out there. I saw people basically living the lives just to survive and doing what they could to survive, rather than given the tools to be able to thrive and become the people that they were meant to be. And I decided to come out of retirement and run for office.
All right, then let's dig into the questions about your political platform then. But first, I want to know from you, Ryan, if your campaign had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh my goodness.
Are you hearing some twang in your campagn? Are you hearing some bluegrass, some
well, if it had a theme song,
Bunny?
No, it would be Rage Against the Machine.
Oh,
that's what my theme song would be. It would be that song that they did on Wall Street. Why can't I think of the name of the song? Sleep Now in the Fire would be the theme song. Sleep Now in the Fire by Rage Against the Machine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that song, but the lyrics
familiar with the song,
are powerful.
but I'm familiar with the band. Yeah.
Yeah, the lyrics are powerful, and it describes the situation that we find ourselves in. The song starts out by saying, "The world is my desire," or "The world is my I forget what the word is, but the world is my desire, the cost of my desire. Jesus blessed me with its future, and I protect it with fire." It's almost like, we think that we own the world that we're living on, and we feel like we can do whatever we want to it without repercussion. And that song brings it back home that what we're doing is causing our own slow destruction over time by not living in harmony with the world. And I don't mean this just at a level of nature, but also a level of humanity, and when it comes to our government, there's another line in the song that says, "I'll jail or bury those committed and cover the rest in greed." And that's what I feel that is happening in our government right now, is those people that are truly committed to a peaceful way of life and to the Constitution and stuff are largely being marginalized. We're being told that we shouldn't be protesting. We're told that we shouldn't be doing these things. And we're being told that by people that have either given up on their ideals or have accepted money or bribes or whatever to stop living their ideals.
Okay.
And I want to change that.
All right. Well, let's get into that. You've shared your story about growing up in generational poverty and how that shaped you. What specific state policies today would, in your view, have most helped your family, and how would you champion those for District 24?
Well, we don't currently have any state policies that would help. Right now, I'm trying to remove state policies that feel like they're deliberately there, put in place to keep the poor poor and the rich rich.
Okay.
For example, in the LEARNS Act that was driven down Arkansas's throat, which is our education law, only public school students are required to perform 75 hours of community service in order to attain high school graduation. If you're a private school student or a parochial school student or a homeschool student, that 75-hour requirement doesn't apply to you. The way I see that is, especially in rural communities, how much harder is it for a kid who lives 10 miles up a mountain road to be able to perform 75 hours of community service when he doesn't have a car, when his parents are living in an RV? Just up the road from my house, there are people living in Home Depot shelters or sheds as their homes. This is the level of generational poverty that we are dealing with here. And all I see are policies meant to continue that generational poverty. Because without the ability to gain an education at the high school level, it really slows down all of your opportunities or closes doors that would have been open for you. I would not have been able to join the military if I didn't have a high school diploma. And that 75 hours of community service would have killed me because I was already working 70 hours a week while I was going to high school. I didn't have time to do community service on top of that. In fact, my high school principal changed the rules for me in 1995 when I graduated high school. She allowed me to leave school at 11 a.m. and go to work starting at 11 a.m. Because when I went to school, I went to school and then I got out of school and went right to work. I wasn't coming home until 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night every night because I was working. My principal allowed me to leave school early, and all I had to do was write a paper on what I was doing in my in my work, so that I could explain what kind of things I was learning as I was working. And that's how I was able to graduate high school, because I was just doing what I could.
Okay, well, I'll move on then. Crawford County depends heavily on manufacturing and warehouse jobs along I-40. What is your plan to protect and grow those jobs specifically in your district?
Well, I want to protect and grow every job, but I also want to provide better opportunities for people in my district. We are the lowest paid state in the nation for labor. We pay our workers less than any other state. So one, I would like to get worker pay up. If worker pay was up, those dollars are spent in the community, as opposed to when we give when we give billionaires tax breaks, that money just sits in a checking account and then they borrow money against it as if it's collateral rather than spend it. So that money never goes back into the economy. It just goes into a billionaire's checking account. When you give money to working class people, I don't use the word give properly because they earned it. But when you pay working class people what they're worth, those working class people buy things in the community. Maybe they'll be less dependent on some of the social programs that we have to have nowadays.
So
if they were actually making a living wage.
what's the
So
minimum wage in your state?
the minimum wage is $11 an hour, I think.
Oh,
But
that's more than my state of Ohio.
sure, but the problem is oh, and you know what? I'm not even certain if that's true. What the minimum wage is in my state. It's not about the minimum wage because minimum wages are not what's important and not how we should define how a person is doing. It's not about the minimum. What it's about is the wages compared to the cost of living. And, some of the things that we do here, like, for example, we're number one in the nation for food insecurity, 3 years in a row, right? So Arkansas's big brag is that we can count the ribs on our kids better than the ribs on kids in other states. I don't think that that's acceptable. We constantly have to fight battles to try to bring school lunches or to do things. I want to start giving the working people of Arkansas the benefit of their tax money. Currently, we tax investment income at 50% of the rate that we tax labor income. So working class people are already paying twice as much tax as the wealthy. And in that, now the wealthy want to use our vouchers from the public school system and give it to private schools. So they're not even paying their fair share of the tax, and they're already gutting the public school system in order to provide for the wealthy school systems.
So you want to protect all jobs, but if most of the jobs people are performing are factory jobs, what are you thinking? You want to bring a different type of industry into your district, or you want to push the people into something new, or what's your plan?
Well, it's not just so when you say that they're factory jobs, Arkansas is the number one producer of rice. We're an agricultural state. We also have
But in your
chickens and
particular
turkeys.
district is in
Right.
the counties.
I don't want it to stop it. I want to do better than just warehouse work for the workers here. What I want to bring in is 60% of our hospitals are on the chopping block. I want to bring in more medical jobs. I want to see more trauma centers in rural communities. I want to see people being able to start their own businesses. I want to see entrepreneurial type of innovation here. There's warehouse and labor work everywhere, but that's because we're Walmart. Walmart has 1 million warehouses,
Yeah.
and and then Amazon and all this kind of stuff. I'm okay with that kind of work. I don't have any saying one type of work is good and one type of work is bad. But if a person working at a warehouse is still having to collect food stamps because they're not being paid enough, then I want to stop that giving money to the corporations in the form of taking care of their workers so they don't have to.
So you want their wages to be increased.
I want their wages to be increased so that they can live a part of the dream, right? Like I said, when we tax labor at twice the rate that we tax capital gains, what if we just fixed that glitch and just gave them their taxes back and said, well, we're going to start taxing the capital gains and we're going to provide services to the people in the community with that capital gain tax? What if we provided 3 meals for every student in school? What if we provided health care to every person under the age of 18 throughout the state? What types of things, what kind of ripple effects would that have? So if the state covered healthcare for every child in the state, and every child in the state got a good education from public school, or even if they went to private school and used their vouchers, but they were also going to be fed a breakfast, a lunch, and if they have after school activities or whatever, going to football practice, they could even get a bag with a sandwich and a juice and whatever, so that they're not getting their first meal at 7:00 or their next meal after lunch at 7:00 when their parents get home or whatever. If we started providing for people so that they don't live, it's the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we can provide their basic needs at the bottom, then these people can blossom. And then what happens is we have better industry altogether. We have better jobs. We have higher paying jobs. We have people that understand that your employees are not just there to be exploited, but they're there to be partnered with so that we can grow the business. I went to business school. I have got my master's degree in business management. And one of the first lessons that they teach you in business school is that cooperative capitalism is much better than than competitive capitalism. If we cooperate with one another, everybody wins. If we compete with one another, then some people win, some people lose, and we leave a lot of wealth on the table.
So what is the reason behind the hospital closures? And what can the state do immediately to prevent this from happening? You say that you want these hospitals, you want a trauma center in your district. How can what is the infrastructure available? Are the people available? Are there doctors available to work at this trauma center? Are there nurses available? Do educational resources need to be provided? Do property tax incentives need to be provided? What would need to happen in order to get a hospital in a trauma level center in your district, or to keep hospitals from closing?
We would just have to stop this politically motivated anti-Medicare, Medicaid stuff that Arkansas does. We would have to just have the political will to do it. Arkansas has no trouble spending money on prisons, has no trouble doing that. One of the things that I would like to see is that for every dollar that we spend on incarceration, we should spend an equal dollar on education, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I guarantee you, if we educated our children, we wouldn't have to incarcerate them when they're adults. It's just simple math. And so we have the funding, we have the ability, we have all of these, all we lack is the will to do it. We have the ability to have schools. Think about what bringing a trauma center into a rural district like this does. Like you said, we need to train doctors, we need to train nurses, we need to do all of this. We have a hospital in Fort Smith, a college in Fayetteville, we have a college in Fort Smith, we have a college in Ozark that could be churning out nurses left and right. What if we increased that type of, education? Let's start churning out more nurses. We need more nurses. We already churn out doctors. They just leave the state. Why do doctors leave the state? Well, they're afraid to stay. They're afraid to practice in the state. We're losing OBGYNs left and right because of the laws around abortion and
Oh,
stuff.
you can't say that word.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
No, you can say AB. You can say AB.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I don't know the social media.
No, it's fine. You're new to this world. It's okay. TikTok it really wants to maintain its family friendly facade. So saying certain words triggers its alarms, and then it wants to kick you off of the live. So
well, I'm sorry about that. I'll try
you're
to
fine.
watch myself.
Fine.
But the fact is, as long as we are trying to, as long as our government in Arkansas is trying to do all the thinking for the people and tell the people, drive down the throat what they're going to get, as opposed to listen to the people and provide what they ask for, we're going to run into this problem and all of these problems. If we just listen to the people and say, what do you want? And is it constitutional? Yes or no? Okay, it's constitutional. You want it. Now, it's not a matter of whether we can afford it. It's a matter of how do we pay for it. We can afford, like I said, we have no trouble finding money for prisons. It's time to find money for education. It's time to find money for the people.
So Arkansas is one of the states that I don't know if this is the reason why, but due to labor shortages, has decided to cut the age for a work permit requirement. So now if you're 14 and up, you don't need a work permit. And children can go and work in certain industries they weren't allowed to before, like they could work with a walk-in freezer, or they could work at a restaurant where alcohol is served. Do you
Yes.
see that as a way of curing the labor shortage, or just as another way for the government to get more years of labor out of people? What do you think about that?
Definitely B. It's not just a way to get more labor out of people, and they're talking about letting people work until they're 75 now. These people that are making these suggestions have never worked. They've never labored. I have degenerative disc disease throughout my entire spine. I have 2 blown rotator cuffs. I don't have any cartilage in either of my knees because, as being a combat search and rescue swimmer, I ran 40 miles a week. I had to swim. I had to do all this stuff. I damaged my neck badly jumping out of a helicopter and wearing night vision goggles and all this kind of stuff, to the point that I have to have a pacemaker today because I damaged my vagus nerve in my neck. And when I look over my left shoulder, my heart stops beating and I go unconscious. So the pacemaker is there. What I'm telling you is my story is not unusual. It's not rare. It's not fictitious. This is what happens when you work labor, when you're a laborer. Now, why would you expect me to start laboring at 14 and continue till I'm 75? It's
You
the
wouldn't be
reason
able
is
to.
what's that? I'm sorry.
I said you wouldn't be able to. Your body wouldn't allow you to work until you're 75.
Exactly. And so now they're not going to give me my retirement pay so now I have to try to say, "Oh, I need my disability pay." And then everybody looks at me like I'm a sucker of government programs or something. And the fact of the matter is I gave at the office. I donated my body to this country, and I deserve dignity and respect throughout my life. Just because I wasn't a surgeon and I didn't go from high school to college to medical school and make $300,000 a year doesn't mean I don't deserve dignity and respect throughout my life. I contributed to this country every bit as much as a surgeon does. I contributed to this country every bit as much as a truck driver does. And a truck driver does it as much as the president does. These people are not just dumb labor that can be used. And that's the way they've been treated. So by starting them to work at 14, not only are we getting more labor out of them, but we're also letting them know that this is normal. You should just expect this. You don't need a high school education. You can go out and work and stop that education. This is like exactly what happened we're doing it with labor and working on the farm and stuff like that in rural areas. In inner cities, children fall into this same trap with doing other more nefarious things, selling drugs, doing whatever, because they have to make a living now. They're 14 years old. Their parents can't provide the things they want, not because they don't want to, but because they physically can't. And why can't their parents provide it? Because their parents grew up in the same system that we're now putting them in. We're pigeonholing them into places where we don't expect them to thrive. We want to keep them down. We want to keep them uneducated and easy to control. And when they get out of control because they have mental problems or because they have anger issues or because they start self-medicating with, I forget what word you said I'm allowed to use. Substances. When they start self-medicating with substances and become addicted, then what's our answer? Incarceration. That's our answer. So what we do is we set them up for failure, and then we provide the housing for them to fail in. And I'm telling you, it's cheaper to educate and help people along, and we will all benefit if we can stop people from having to go to these prisons in the first place. If everybody had mental health access and stuff like that, what do you say? Because I'm a very pro Second Amendment kind of guy. But that doesn't mean that I'm pro watching kids getting shot at school. I don't necessarily think that making guns illegal is the answer, but I do think having full health care for every child is a big part of that answer. If these children could go and get help they need, even if their parents can't afford it, then that means that my kid is not going to be threatened by that kid at school. That means that that kid is healthy. And it's somewhere along the lines, we forgot that we're all on this same boat together. We think that somehow we're different than other people. We're not. The fact is if I can make that kid down the street who's growing up in an RV, who's living without running water right now, because that's the way I grew up too. Outhouses, no running water, a lot of that stuff. If I can help that kid thrive, then maybe that kid goes to college and he wouldn't have been able to go to college. And I'm not saying college is everything, because I'm a working class man. I like work. But if he went to college and then became an optometrist, then maybe he brings and says, you know what, I'm going to start my optometry business in my hometown where I grew up. They took care of me. I'm going to take care of them. If we took care of that single mother then that was 17 and pregnant, if we told her, hey, young lady, we're going to take care of you and we're going to take care of your child. We're going to give you prenatal health care. We're going to give you health care. We're going to do this kind of stuff so that you don't feel like this is the end of your life as you know it. Maybe she doesn't want to have the A word. Maybe she thinks she doesn't feel like she's in it all by herself. Maybe that's the way we solve these problems, is with compassion and by taking care of people and giving them a hand up.
So your Crawford County has its own struggles with substance addiction issues. I'm assuming the resources from the state are not flowing into that county as they should be. What would you change about Arkansas's approach to addiction treatment?
The first thing I would change is I would try to change the stigma behind it. Anybody who's been around addiction and truly knows addicts, and everybody does. This is something that everybody knows somebody. I mean, my goodness, our last president's son was an addict, and every absolute despotism that is addiction. And the people that know addiction understand nobody wants to be addicted. This is not something they are choosing to do. This is something that they have done, and now they are trapped. And without help, they will remain trapped. And then what do? We just punish them and keep them down and put them into prisons. And then we take them out of prisons. And since these prisons are for profit, recidivism is part of their business model. So we make sure that their parole is very difficult and they have to jump through all kinds of hoops. We tell them that they need to do urinalysis every week or every month. And these urinalysis cost $50 or $75 a time or whatever. And yet we don't do anything to help them employ themselves. We don't provide them anything in the way of what are your skills? What are your abilities? What are the things that you would like? What is a job that we can prepare you for and train you to do so that you are an actual productive member of society? I have never met a drug addict or a substance addict or whatever that did not want to get out of that situation, but felt hopeless and felt completely incapable of doing it. And what's our answer right now been for the last 50 years of just complete dominance by conservative control in Arkansas is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That's the answer. And I'm here to tell you that if you help a person pull themselves up, you don't necessarily have to worry about them breaking into your house later on.
I agree with that. So what's one area of the Arkansas state budget you believe is overspending?
Well, incarceration is overspending big time. It's not about what they're overspending. Honest to God, they're overspending on podiums. They're overspending on vacations for the governor. They're overspending on things like that for certain. But those are all just drops in the bucket, really. It's where they're underspending. Arkansas tells us that, we've got a our constitution requires us to have a balanced budget. And so they tell us the budget is balanced and we have a surplus. But 99% of rural firefighters are voluntary, completely unpaid. And so I'm like, you don't get to say that you balanced your checkbook just because you didn't pay the electric bill. You got to pay your firefighters. You need to pay your first responders. Our police officers are wholly undertrained. They don't recognize the fact that they are stepping on people's first, fourth, Fifth Amendment rights on a regular basis. Why? Because they don't have the education and training to do so. And they are required to have continuing education, but it's laughable of 25 hours a year. And we don't even pay them for that. I want to see all of our first responders receive tuition assistance so that they can improve themselves and do their continuing education. I would like to see them be able to pass when they get training in the police department or whatever. I want to see that translated to college credit hours that they can use to try to attain further education for themselves, so that when they are 55 years old and they have lung problems from inhaling a bunch of smoke and stuff like that from being a firefighter, they have another career they can fall on as an administrator or something because they got a bachelor's degree along the way. We're never going to get away with people that need to do labor and people that need to work hard. And I don't want to get away from it. What I want to get away from is not paying these people what they're worth and not treating them like they're the essential parts of our society that they truly are. They're every bit as important as any other job in the country.
So your district leans conservative, right?
If you want to say like completely is one-sided conservative, yeah, I'd say that's leans. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not the color of my sweatshirt, that's for sure. How will you represent voters who may not share your party affiliation or party ideas?
Well, the fact is I don't have a party affiliation. I'm an independent. I've always been an independent. I'm not a registered Democrat or a registered Republican.
Okay.
I am running as a Democrat in Arkansas because the Democratic Party specifically called me and asked me to run as their representative. And I told them that I would, but it wouldn't change my messaging at all. I am a
They
constitutionalist.
called you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am a constitutionalist. I believe that if we follow the rules laid down by our founding fathers, which were not perfect, admittedly, when it was first written, but they are becoming more perfect with every amendment we add. And I feel like that we need to add the amendments that just define every person as a person and get rid of all this race and sexual identity and all that stuff from the Constitution. That the government's view of you, every human being, is just that, a person in the country. And then for citizens, you have the added benefit of being able to vote. But otherwise, we're all just people, and the government should just treat us like people. I don't know if about 10 years ago, I signed myself a reading list of all of our founding fathers. And if you've never read the book or the pamphlet, Common Sense by Thomas Paine, I highly recommend it.
Yes, I've read it.
Okay. In it, he describes that there's really two separate things. Not a separation between church and state so much as what he was describing, which of course he believed in, but a separation between government and society. He says we need to get away from the idea that government fixes society. It doesn't. Government has no place in society. Government is a janitor. Government is there to take care of these little things. Society is there to take care of the big issues. So the way I like to...
Okay, but if the government isn't taking care of the citizenry, how can the citizens take care of the republic?
Well, that's what I'm saying is the government is not there to solve all your problems, I guess is what I'm here to say.
Not
The government,
all of them, no.
no. So what I mean by that is the difference between society and government. Okay, let's talk about a big issue in Arkansas. It's not a big issue for me, and it's not an actual big issue in Arkansas, but it's an issue that they made big in Arkansas, which is bathrooms and transgender and all this stuff. From the government, so let's talk about transgender athletes, right? We have 11 transgender athletes in the whatever the college thing is or whatever.
The
I think that's
NCAA?
NCAA. Thank you. I think there's 11 transgender athletes. And the government has been debating this stuff. How much money has the government spent on debates on the House floor and Congress and Senate over an issue that the government has no opinion on? The government has no place talking about this at all. The NCAA is a private organization. They can make their own rules. And they can solve this problem of transgender without bringing presidents and senators and congressmen into it. Presidents and senators and congressmen should be worried about trade and laws that they belong to. The government is not there to tell you what you can or cannot do with your own body, and how you have to behave with your own body. At no point is the government given that authority. And yet
The constituents are asking, especially conservative ones, they're asking the government to step in and solve these problems for them, right?
That
the
is
government
correct.
wouldn't be involved if the constituents weren't going to the government and saying, hey, what are you going to do about those bathrooms? What are you going to do about those tea people? What are you going to do about those immigrants?
Exactly. And that's not the government's job. So we need to stop asking the government to do that. And the government needs to tell its constituents where the line is. So the government needs to tell the constituents, I'm sorry, the line is that's not our line. As far as we're concerned, this argument about trans people or in athletics doesn't apply to us, because all the government sees is one person has a problem with another person. None of these people are different in the government's eyes, whether you're trans or what your race is. The government's eyes should be blind to what type of person you are. And these are society's problems. So if you're a baker and you don't want to make a cake for a gay wedding, do I think that that's childish and silly? Perhaps. But is it the government's business? No. Society can say, you know what? We're not going to patronize your cake business. We're going to stop using it entirely. That's society's job. Government is there to stop those actual assaults on your rights. You don't have a right, that's in the Constitution to walk around and not feel offended. You don't have a right to walk around and not feel ashamed or embarrassed or not feel that something is right or wrong. That's clearly it. It's the same thing that we had. We spent $600,000 trying to take books out of a library because some people believed that they were grooming people to become homosexual. I don't know how they believed these books were doing that. I've asked several of these men if, when they looked at the book, did it give them those feelings of wanting to become homosexual? And they all said no. So I'm not sure what they're basing this on. But the fact is, the government has no opinion on what's in that book. The government's opinion ends at, it's a book, that's speech, it's protected. End of story. I don't know what's in the book. I don't need to know what's in the book. The book is irrelevant. The fact is that's not government's purview. That's society. And so we need to get government back in its cage. We need to put it back in its box and have it to start working for the people. And by working for the people, that means that if the people want to involve the government in something, the government needs to look at it and say, am I allowed to be involved in this? Do I have the constitutional authority to even voice an opinion from the government on this? And when it comes to human beings and their rights and their lives and their bodies, I don't see that the government has that. The government, the Constitution, when it was first written, included slavery. We can't ignore that. The 3/5 compromise, all those horrible ideas that were there because part of the country really wanted to maintain slaves at that time, and part of the country wanted to have freedom. So they made these compromises. Later on, we remove slavery, but in the same amendment that we removed slavery, we added in the caveat that if you are a criminal and you're convicted of a crime, you can still be treated like a slave. You can still be forced to do labor. You can still be incarcerated. You can still do that stuff. When I read the Constitution, that is the only instance where the government has any authority over a person's body, is if that person was found guilty by a jury of their peers and as a convicted and incarcerated person. Otherwise, the government has no authority to weigh in on these things. and they need to stop.
Okay, well, we have a question from the audience. Big Kev, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm listening, and I hear you saying that the government doesn't have these responsibilities. I think that my question becomes, how do we set the standards in a nation this size? This isn't one community. This is 340 million people. So I want the standards in Arkansas to be the same as the standards in New York. How do we set the boundaries if the government abdicates becoming involved in these processes? Where are the guidelines? How are the guardrails maintained?
Yes, sir. Well, I say that those standards are already enumerated in the Constitution. There are specific articles in the Constitution that give government the authority to, do certain things like interstate commerce and that kind of stuff. When you're talking about standards between New York and Arkansas, let me give you a couple examples. For example, in New York, I think it's still illegal to have a 32-ounce soda. I don't think you can, or you can't buy one or whatever, right? There, whereas in Arkansas, a woman doesn't have the same rights to her own bodily autonomy as she does in Illinois. Those are problems that have to be addressed. And one of the reasons that we have those problems is because of the 10th Amendment, which grants those rights to the state. Unfortunately, so the Ninth Amendment says that any rights not granted directly to the federal government should belong to the people. And then the 10th Amendment comes around right after that and says that any of those rights that are not specifically those of the federal government or those of the people belong to the states. And the states have been given broad authority to make their own rules, which, as we see with the adaptation of Roe v. Wade and stuff like that, the states are getting away with that. Now, I would go and make one argument that says that the government has no authority to pass those laws at any point. And that's what the Supreme Court held up, that the federal government has no authority to do that. But they acknowledge that the state authorities do have that. And while I appreciate your idea that everybody should be treated the same regardless of which state you're in, I also recognize the fact that each state has its own challenges, its own geography, geology, everything. Every state is somewhat unique. So the same rules that apply to New York don't necessarily need to apply to Arkansas and vice versa or whatever. And so I do like the idea of local governments being able to have local authority. For example, Second Amendment rights. I see an argument from the left where they can say, well, if the states get to choose what a woman does with her body based on state sovereignty, why can't they choose whether or not you get to have a gun in California or Illinois or Hawaii or whatever? And that argument's coming. Just count on it. It's going to come. Somebody's already trying to draft it up, I guarantee you.
Well, not to delve into gun rights because that is complex. I want to circle back around to the initial question because we are discussing the equitable treatment of people, and the government is responsible for setting those standards. I understand now more of what you're saying because you're saying that you're an originalist. Okay, that
I'm not. I believe that the Constitution is a living document. I'm not an originalist. I believe the Constitution is a living document, and that's how we do this. So we set those standards through the Constitution, through amendments. That's what we do. For example, the only time we've taken rights away from people is when we did. I think it's the 18th Amendment that prohibited alcohol. I believe it was the 18th Amendment, and then it was repealed. We had to change the Constitution to grant the government the authority to take away people's rights in when it came to alcohol. We had to make that change. And we did that as a people, and we're allowed to do that today and tomorrow and whatever. But when when it comes to outside of changing the Constitution, the government goes ahead and says, well, you're not allowed to smoke marijuana. What authority grants the government to tell a person they can't smoke marijuana if the government has already been proven that they're not allowed to tell people that they can't drink alcohol? And that's the kind of stuff we have that.
You muted yourself, but I don't. Thank you for allowing me to ask my question. I don't want to get out of hand.
Thank you, Big Kev. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are you there? Are you there? Hold on.
Is my microphone back on?
Oh, there you are. There
Sorry,
you are.
I don't know what happened. It just, my microphone went away. I want to continue. I want to finish answering your question, Big Kev. I don't feel like I fully answered it. My point is that, like, in the local states, people have their own constitutions within their states. And so having that is our voice. That is how we do it. We alter these constitutions, and we can demand whatever we want from the government. But the government is handcuffed by the rules that we set. So just like I don't know if you heard me before, I don't know how we can say a person is not allowed to engage in cannabis, but they or without the authority. Like I said, when we did the prohibition of alcohol, we had to change the Constitution and allow the government to have that authority to prohibit alcohol. Without those changes, the government had no authority to do that. That's my point. And what I'm saying is we have several laws on the books that are already government overreach and encroaching on people's liberties without the actual authority to do so.
So, Ryan, you're going to take all of this whole bucket of newfangled ideas to the State House. What do you think the pushback is going to be from mostly conservative State House? And you have a conservative governor as well. What do you think the pushback is going to be?
Well, I'm already receiving the pushback.
Okay.
Yeah. The governor is already been funneling dark money into my opponent's campaign. She's already been busted with that. I already have quite a bit of pushback. The reason I'm getting so much pushback, though, is because the conservatives that are around me like what I'm saying. They've been using this term almost like a soundbite, saying smaller government, smaller government, smaller government. But when you ask them what that means, they don't know what they're talking. They don't know. And so what I'm saying is, here's what I think smaller government means. I think government should do those things for the people that the people want done. And then government should completely stay out of anything that people don't want government involved in. So I want government to build us an interstate highway system. I want government to give us an electrical grid. I want government to provide us a military. I want government to do those things. What I don't want government to do is tell you how to live your life, tell you what decisions you should make in an emergency room, tell you how you should behave in your bedroom, tell you any of that stuff. That's where I see government overreaching.
Okay. So, what's the first thing you want to address when you get to the State House? What's the first bill you will introduce that says, we need this immediately, we can't wait, this can't wait? What's the first thing?
I have to revamp the education system.
So you don't like that Learn Act, right?
The LEARNS Act is horrible. It had good intentions. And this is the problem. And this is why I'm not just, oh my God, conservatives are bad or whatever. I don't feel that way. What I feel is that people lack foresight. So when they go and they say, I want to pay teachers a minimum of $50,000 a year, who's not on board with that? Everybody wants that. But they didn't think any past that. They didn't say, well, If I raise this teacher's salary up to $50,000 a year, and now she's making the same as this teacher who's been here for 15 years, is that fair to the teacher who's been here for 15 years? So now I have to raise that teacher who's been here for 15 years. I need to raise her salary or his salary. And then I'm going to start sprinkling money all over the teachers. What about the janitors? What about the secretaries? What about the administrators? What about these people? Do they not deserve any of this stuff? And then when I spend all that money on the teacher's pay and everything, what about the playground equipment? What about the infrastructure? We didn't think about any of that. The LEARNS Act has been enacted for 1 year, and it's already $32 million in the hole because they didn't think about any of the unintended consequences. I see that as a grenade that's about to blow up. I want to fix it. I think we can fix it. And I think we can fix it right. I think that what we do, because, as a independent, I don't necessarily follow the Democratic Party line of public funds should stay public. That's their big thing. It's public funds, so it should only go into public schools. I disagree with that a little bit. I think that as long as the end user is getting the funds, i.e. the teacher, the student, I don't care where that money goes. It can go to a Catholic school. It can go to a school that's private or whatever, but it should go to the end user. The way I want to see it is, and I want it budgeted so that every student is going to get the same amount of money per student or whatever, and those schools have to have the same type of resources if they're going to accept that money. If they're going to accept that money, that means that they have to be able to take in that kid that's in a wheelchair or that kid that's autistic or that kid that's whatever. They need to have all those same resources for the people that are going to use the school. And they need to allow those people in. So I'm all for letting the students take their money where they want to go, but I'm not okay with just letting the rich people take the money and send everybody else home.
And so for people who are asking, the LEARNS Act completely overhauled Arkansas's K through 12 education system, from teacher pay to school vouchers, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the cornerstones is it raised the minimum teacher pay from $36,000 to $50,000, correct?
$50,000 a year.
$50,000 a year, yeah. And it created a merit teacher incentive fund, it says here. So you get up to $10,000 annually if you perform well. So,
but they also did away with other things that are not as prevalent in the bill. Teachers have no recourse for being fired now. Teachers in public schools, let's say a teacher, wants to have her prep hour. She's got 1 hour a day to prep for her classes or whatever, right? And the school's like, well, we need you to teach or do a study hall during your prep hour or do something like that. I don't want to see that happen. You need to fund it properly. If it's funded properly, we don't run into these problems. Teachers can have their prep hour. And if the teacher does it, says, I don't want to give up my prep hour, there's nothing to stop that principal from saying, okay, well, if you're not going to give up your prep hour, you're fired. And they'll just fire him. And the teacher has no recourse.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit, it's touching on a little bit of No Child Left Behind, which was a miserable failure. So
yes. Again, No Child Left Behind was lack of foresight.
Yeah, and we do have another audience question. Hey, go ahead, Sianka.
Hey, Ayana. Good evening. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hello.
When you going back to the public funding going to everybody, so from in reality, because I am from New York, and the places in the inner city was not getting the same amount of funding like the places in the expensive side of society.
Correct.
So how will you, I don't know how it is in Arkansas, but how will you navigate the funding in that case? Because when you say you want it for all like public and private, well, it's not in a perfect world, yes, but can you explain how you would do that? when there's different society, because you got the low income people
Mm-hmm.
living in this neighborhood and you got the high income people. So how will you accommodate that?
Let's say, for example, whatever the budget comes out to, I can take that budget and divide it by how many students are in a district, just for random numbers. So let's say that the budget's $100,000 and I've got 100 students. Okay, each student is entitled to $1,000 if you look at it that way. And so we give that money to wherever that student attends school, that's the school that gets that student's money. And if that student leaves that school, goes to another school, the money follows the student, which currently does not happen in the LEARNS Act. Right now, if a student goes into private school, the LEARNS Act will give money to the private school. And if the student fails out of the private school, goes back to public or whatever, the money stays in private. That's wrong. The money needs to follow the student. And I would create the burden of having them report monthly all the students, all the stuff, and then the state writes the check to wherever they're going. Again, my goal here is not to be a stickler about private money, public money, all that kind of stuff, as long as the money's going to the intended end user. And the intended end user when it comes to education is the student. And so if it's going to the intended end user, I'm okay with it, because my goal is to enrich the lives of all Arkansans by giving our children the opportunities to be successful in the world.
Okay, I can see that. However, like I said, in a perfect world, without chaos and disorder, yeah, I can, that would be great. And hopefully, your plan works, hopefully. And thank
I've
you.
got pretty ambitious plans, that's for sure.
I see that.
Yeah.
But thank you for answering my question. Thank you, Ayana.
Thank you for asking your question.
I appreciate you, girl.
No problem.
Wee.
Whee!
That we belongs exclusively to Sianka. It's trademarked now. Copywritten material can't be stolen. All right, Mr. Intchauspe. In these final minutes that we have here, I want you to convince me, a person who lives in Ohio, but I could live in Arkansas in your district, to vote for you for District 24.
I'm not. I'm not a politician. I'm blue collar, and as much as I got a white collar education through the military, but it didn't take away. I'm kind of a class warrior. I know where I came from. I haven't forgotten where I came from. I recognize the struggles that Americans are going through. And I also recognize that the majority of Americans are not represented by their government. Our government is made up of the top 5% of income levels throughout. It's majority white, majority male, and almost exclusively top 5% income earners in our government. That means we're not represented appropriately, in my opinion. And as much as I can play the game of being political or being whatever, and nice and trying to act like I was always raised with a silver spoon in my mouth, the truth is I'm poor white trash. I come from generations of poverty, and I can't take that out of me. I don't have a fight or flight response. My response is 100% fight. People tell me you need to learn how to pick your battles, is something I've heard my entire life. And the fact is the only criteria I need to take on a battle is whether or not it's the right thing to do. Win, lose, or draw, I don't mind. I have been in fights, both physical and figurative and everything, and I will meet any adversary on any battlefield, whether that's in the the oratory battlefield of the Congress or out at the slippery slide at 3 o'clock after school. I don't care. The fact is if the fight is worthy and if the fight is on the side of right, I'm there to fight for it. And it's just, you can't get the trailer park out of this kid, you know? And so when it comes down to it, I'm going to fight for the majority of Americans the hardest. And it's not because they're the majority, but it's because the majority of Americans need the most help. We don't need to fight for the top 5% anymore. The top 5% are doing pretty well. You know, what we need to do is we need to help everybody else out. Have you ever seen the movie Batman or whatever, those Batman movies?
Which one? I've seen them all.
Okay. The one with Bane or whatever, where they threw him in the hole in the prison,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that kid that crawled out of the hole, and now I just want to drop the rope for other people. I want other people to be able to climb out of that hole too. I climbed out of desperate poverty, and I want other people to do the same. And if we can get more people climbing out of that, we don't need more 5%ers. We just need the majority of the wealth to be and the wealth and power to be in the majority of the people. It shouldn't be isolated with a minority. The majority should be the one that speaks. I'm highly against money in campaigns. To date, I've raised 200.
Oh no, you've been paused. Where did you go, Ryan? Ryan.
I'm here. Do you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes.
Yes, something came up on my wife's phone.
Okay.
I'm against money in politics. To date, I've raised an entire $200. I'm not, all of my campaign, everything has been through Facebook and social media and being out in public. And I've gathered quite the following. I'm being talked about by people. I'm being recognized on the street. I'm having those whispers where they're like, I never thought I'd vote for a Democrat. And I get those people all the time saying that stuff. When they see me out in town and I'm wearing my, dad hugs, free dad hugs shirt with the pride flag on it or whatever and stuff. And, I get women coming up to me and saying, I love your shirt. But they whisper it here, everybody's a whisperer, and so I'm ready to be vocal and I'm ready to let people just be themselves.
Okay.
Whether or not people vote for me isn't going to change how I'm going to fight this battle. I'm going to fight.
Well, how can the people support you in your campaign? Where can they find you? If not on social media, where you have a website, you got an address, a PO box.
I have all of that. I don't have a website yet. The website is coming, but I have a Facebook page. Chief Chops AR24.
Chief Chops.
Chief Chops. Well, in the Navy, nobody could say Intchauspe, so they just started calling me Chops. Everybody called me Chops.
Oh, okay.
And
I
so
you had the beard.
No. If I wasn't allowed to grow facial hair my whole life until I retired from the Navy. But yeah, nobody could pronounce Intchauspe, so everybody just called me Chief Chops. And then I retired as a senior chief, but Senior Chief Chops doesn't have the same ring as Chief Chops.
I like that, but I learned to pronounce your name just for this TikTok town hall, so I'm going to call you Intchauspe. So
well, that's perfectly fine with me, and you can find me on Facebook if you can spell the name, and you can follow my page and follow my campaign. I'm also trying to gather, because this is one of the things is in our area we don't have. I have an Act Blue account, I have a Good Change account, I have those things that people can do too. I just haven't publicized any of that stuff yet because
you need to get that out so you can
the fact is I planned on starting a lot of that stuff after the primary, and it's kind of sick and it's probably naive, but I want to see if I can win this race, and I want to see how little money I can raise and still win. just by being the right candidate. Like I said, my opponent is already taken dark money. There's a for-profit prison that they want to open up, not in my district, but in another district. And though that corporation is funneling tons of money into my opponent because she's a yes vote on that for-profit prison. I'm a no vote. My dad went to a for-profit prison. I thought it was horrible. It was literally just them holding him hostage and not providing any of his needs and actually requiring the family to pay for everything. It's like, you incarcerated this man. It's your duty now to take care of him. If you don't like that, then don't incarcerate him. But the fact is if you're going to incarcerate a person, you now own that person. And this for-profit prison system is just the opposite. And I keep telling people, those 3,000 beds they're putting in that prison are not intended for immigrants. That's a permanent prison. Those beds are intended for your children eventually. That's what they're for.
Well, okay. Ryan, we've reached the end of our ride together. I am afraid. It's been very adventurous, though.
I'm sorry if I'm not very political and I don't do it very well.
You know what you're talking about, obviously. You carried the whole conversation.
Well, I'll work on that.
No, you're fine. What I meant to say is that you answered my questions as you were talking. I didn't need to ask, pointed questions because you covered everything that I wanted to talk about. You covered education, economics, jobs. You covered all of it. So you know what you're talking about. You just need to get your camera working there on your social medias.
Yeah, my wife is like,
it'll be okay. You'll figure it out. You let your wife do it. She'll figure it out. But I wanted to let you know that coming up after this one at 9:00, we will be talking to LaVon Barnes, who is running for North Carolina's State House, District 64, another State House candidate, this time in North Carolina. North Carolina is also in the midst of early voting like Arkansas. So if you're in these states, please early vote. Do not early wait. Don't be late. Be on time. This is OVC, Our Vote Counts. We want to thank Mr. Ryan Intchauspe for joining us this evening and sharing his thoughts, his visions, his platform, his opinions, and his, what he thinks he can do for the future of Arkansas, not just his district, but the future of the state of Arkansas. We look forward to seeing the results of this for you, Mr. Intchauspe. Again, we appreciate you being here. To the research team, to the moderators, to all of you crazy cats in the comments, to the people who asked the questions. I appreciate you. Thank you so very much. Our Vote Counts is a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure every voice is heard through education, outreach, accountability, and action. We're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. I thank you for joining us. Remember, your vote is your power. Get out there and early vote, Arkansas. Bye, everyone.
The rights you do not exercise will atrophy. I promise you that.
Y'all better listen.